In this video, we're going to have a look at dividing integers. Division is the inverse operation of multiplication, and that is why the conclusion that we made in the previous video about multiplying by a negative value also applies to division. So when multiplying or dividing with an odd number of minuses, you'll always get a negative value. And when multiplying or dividing with an even number of minuses, you will form a positive value. Let's go and have a look at examples of dividing integers. In the first example, we have minus 20 divided by 5. And just like with multiplication, I'm going to start off saying 20 divided by 5 is 4. And now we need to take into account the signs. We have an odd number of minuses, which means our answer will be negative because a minus divided by a plus is a minus. Division can also be written in fraction form. Here we have 32 divided by 8, which is 4, and then a plus divided by a minus, so we have one negative, meaning our answer will be negative. In example 3, we have 40 divided by 4, which is 10. And this time we have a minus divided by another minus, and an even number of minuses will result in a positive answer of 10. In example 4, we are now combining multiplication and division. I'm going to choose to first do the multiplication, and in my next step, divide by 2. In the numerator, we have 4 times 7, which is 28, and I have a plus times only the one minus, which means we'll have a negative answer. When I divide, I'll have 28 divided by 2 is 14, and a minus divided by a minus will give us plus 14. In example 5, I'm going to start off simplifying the numerator and denominator by multiplying. In my numerator, I have a minus multiplied by another minus, which will form a plus. 6 times 12 is 72. In the denominator, we have a minus times a plus, and only one minus stays negative, and 4 times 3 is 12. Now I can divide. 72 divided by 12 is 6. And a plus divided by a minus is an odd number of minuses, which will have a negative answer. Example: determine the values of A and B in the following pattern. When looking at this pattern, you will see that it changes from positive to negative and again from negative to positive. Such switch between positive and negative is the result of multiplying or dividing by a negative number. If you look at the first two numbers, you will realize that 64 is half of 128, which means we divided by 2. But because the sign also changed, we had to divide by minus 2. And exactly the same happens from minus 16 to 8. Here you have to divide by minus 2 to change the negative from positive and to get half of 16. Next, we can use this knowledge to also take minus 64 and divide it by minus 2 to determine the value of A. So minus 64 divided by minus 2 means that we'll have a positive value because we have an even number of minuses, and 64 divided by 2 is 32. So A is 32. The same happens to get B. Here we'll divide 8 by minus 2, and because we're dividing a plus by a minus, our next value will be negative, and 8 divided by 2 is 4.